Awesome. Thank you very much, Ashley, and welcome everybody to our CEU course today. My name is Dan Tiernan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Campbell and one of the 5 owners of the company. I'm going to be the moderator for today's discussion on making your insurance work in a disaster. And again, this is a CEU course. So hopefully, if you want to, hopefully you gave us your license number if you're looking to get those credits. So we have Altieri here today to help run this course, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a minute. But I did want to just mention a few things in case you're not familiar with Campbell. We're the longest standing property management company in South Florida, having been in business since 1953. And we're very proud of the fact that our boards and owners have rated us higher than any other management company in the state. We manage over 400 properties, but only in South Florida and the Treasure Coast. One of the things I wanted to point out here was that we have a blog that we post to every week. It's called Florida Association News. You'll get subscribed to that by virtue of the fact that you registered to this. And there's a lot of great information in there. And this is one of the ways we also support our managers and our boards, is sharing relevant information for them. So if you go to readfan.org, which is where our blog is, and you want to learn more about some other things related to hurricanes, you can search the blog. I've kind of circled in red there with hurricane. It'll show you all these different blog posts about having plans, making sure that you've got communication out to your association and so on. So again, just make sure you take advantage of that. It's free, it's updated very constantly, and a great resource for both board members and managers. So with that, I'll turn it over and we'll get started on the CEU course.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
Good, thanks for having us here. I've got some of my associates here, David Akers and Gil Shulman, as well as Pete Swisdraw with our company. They're in the Southwest Florida area as well. You want me to just get started with the course, or how?
Yeah, you go brief introduction of your company yourself.
Okay.
That'll be great, and then you can jump into the course. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Altieri Insurance Consultants, we've been in business since the late 80s. My father founded our company. I'm the president of the company, and we're public insurance adjusters and insurance consultants. And I guess this here with disasters, obviously this is what we specialize in. So we've put together this CE class that we do around the state, and it's been pretty great to have this opportunity with Campbell to join everyone here today. So thank you for that. So I'll share my screen and we will start the show here. Okay. Okay. The do's and don'ts. Trying to get this out of the way here. So our goal today is to share the property insurance cycle and what it means to you and your associations. Okay, there's a cycle. Do you know what that property insurance cycle is? You have the top half of the cycle is insuring the property from loss. Everybody's very familiar with this, okay? Everyone has insurance to some degree. The bottom half of the cycle is the recovery of the economic value in the event of a loss, right? We have damage. Your insurance is here to pay you back for the damage that has occurred. So it's the economic value that you're insuring. Everybody, again, is 100% familiar with that top half of the cycle. So less than 5% of people will ever have to become familiar with handling an insurance claim, whether it's to their home or a commercial property, or in this case, condos. So why do you buy insurance? It's so that when you have damage, right, you're able to recover from it. Who do we buy it from? Your agent, your broker. How do I know if I have enough insurance? There's the question. This is where it gets interesting. How do you know if you have enough? So what I would recommend, what our company recommends, is that, especially with your properties, your condos, you want to take into account everything that is there. Walking the property, okay, looking at, of course, you have the building, right? That's understood. But take into account your landscaping, your fountains, your anything that makes your property unique. Tennis courts, docks, pavers on driveways and parking garage. You have to take that into account. So you want to capture everything that makes your property unique, and now go sit with your agent and list all of these things. All right. You may not be able to afford the full amount of the insurance. You may not be able to get certain things covered. Okay. But at least you came to the table with everything that you had, and now you make business decisions on if you choose to insure certain items. Also, what we do with our clients is we do a policy review, an annual policy review before they renew, to say, okay, let's look for any pitfalls. Let's identify any landmines in coverage and provide those to our clients to go back and sit with their agent to discuss them. Because we're looking at it from a claims perspective, okay, not just a premium perspective. We're coming from all of this experience in handling large claims for decades, and we see where a client should have had, more wind-driven rain coverage is a good example. It only got $250,000. Well, we know the insurance company, when they had a loss, is trying to force a lot of that damage underneath the limited coverage of wind-driven rain. They only have $250,000. They should have probably had $1 million. So it's important, I think, to identify that from a claims perspective before the loss happens. When do you use your insurance? Okay. Should I make a claim? Should I not make a claim? Is it big enough? Is it going to reach my deductible? All these questions. And I think, reaching out to your public adjuster and identifying if this claim is worth presenting is going to be valuable. All right. Obviously, if it's catastrophic, it's a no-brainer. But you want to when you make a claim, you want it to be covered. So the condo world has the responsibility of understanding both the unit owner as well as what the association has to insure. So, this picture, you guys, I'm sure, have all dealt with that, where the unit owner says, no, you guys are supposed to pay for this, and everyone's pointing their fingers at each other. So we want to be up to date with the certain legislation, right? You sit with your HOA attorney. We're not attorneys, so I'm not going to ever talk about law, but we do deal with these things, and you would want to sit with your HOA attorney and understand who's responsible for what. Condominiums in Florida are governed by the Florida Condominium Act, Chapter 718, Florida statutes. When a condo is purchased in Florida, you own your individual unit, but also have what is known as undivided interest in all the common areas. You are required to abide by the rules and regulations as established by the condominium complex. Condominium is statutorily required to provide certain insurance coverage. The remaining items are the responsibility of the unit owner. Accordingly, 2 policies are typically available to review and determine how to make the insured's claim. The Declaration of Condominium Bylaws and Articles of Incorporation make up the condominium documents. Condominium documents may require more coverage than required by the Condominium Act. And the statement of values is very important, very important. Statement of values, the appropriate of coverage values within the insurance policy. This is more the state statutes. I won't continue to just go read into state statutes, but they're available for you. Again, I would consult with your HOA attorney on these. So do you guys have a program that helps members of the association understand their insurance? Okay, it's important that everybody has the right information so they're making educated decisions. Again, we're a resource for that, and we're able to sit with you and explain, sit with the board, sit with ownership, and explain these types of insurance questions. So the bottom half of the top half of the cycle, making sure you're insured properly. Okay, reaching out to your professionals that you work with and making sure that they insure you properly. The bottom half is now you've had a claim. Now it's time to actually use the product that you purchased. The do's and the don'ts. So before the storm, preparation is key, right? We want to be prepared, and we're in hurricane season, the beginning right now. So before the storm, these tips here are going to be crucial to your success if you guys get hit. So maintain, obviously, you want a full copy of your insurance policy. You want all the endorsements. You don't want to have an incomplete policy. It's very important to know and have that policy. I would have a hard copy, right? You could be, if you're hit, you could be without power for a long time, and you would want to make sure you have your insurance policy. Make sure your evacuation plans are current, your backup systems are functional, and make sure you test those things. Identify any potential building envelope hazards, okay? You're going to want to capture some pictures and some videos of the property. But I'll also caution you there. When you go through and get so in depth, you could be identifying issues that you don't want to bring to the surface. And so, general pictures of the health of the building, I would stay more vague than too in depth. Of course, you want your emergency contact information in place and ready to go. You want to make sure that you have your vendors lined up. You're going to know who your mitigation company is. Okay, you're going to vet them beforehand. You're going to know they have enough manpower and equipment to take care of your property. You're going to want to make sure the general contractor that you work with is going to have a spot for you, because when you're hit, everybody is inundated with claims and with calls, and so you want to make sure you're a priority in that event. You're going to want your own adjuster that is ready to come out as the quarterback and work with your team of vendors and contractors to make sure that all duties are met under that policy by you, the policyholder, okay? Because you have obligations to that insurance policy when you have damage. And so the adjuster does know that, and you'd want your own adjuster, because the first thing that the insurance company does when you call in your claim is they hire their own adjuster immediately to coordinate a strategy to settle your claim, basically. During the storm, you're going to want to take as many safety measures. Obviously, you're not going to want to be there if you have to evacuate, but just follow the recommendations. Make sure you have the contact information that for emergency people right at your fingertips. So I put a video in. This is one of our buildings, security camera or somebody filmed this during Hurricane Michael in Panama City. You can see it's extremely violent. You got roofs just tearing off, debris flying everywhere. Here's another video that's pretty wild. This is a building in Panama City as well that we worked on. I'll just go quickly on this. But they're watching the windows explode out, the roof tear off right there. You can just see now that debris now is just flying around, hitting buildings. You got windows flashing out when you see these flashes up. You can see it starts to get really bad here in a second.
I'm glad you're sharing this, Ray. I think a lot of us, some of us haven't been here since 2006 when the last time something like this actually hit South Florida full steam. And it's, you know, it's unbelievable just to see, you know, the impact of these things, even, you know, because it happened like 2 years in a row back then.
Yeah, I remember that. It 8 hurricanes hit the state. It was wild.
Yeah.
And this is how dangerous it is. So I mean, evacuating is going to be key. Look at the debris just tearing off. So now you got after the storm. All right, now it's time to act. Now it's time to perform for your community, right? And communication, I would say, is number one. Some of our properties, they would form these Facebook pages. They would do Facebook Live once they had internet back, so that the ownership could kind of sit in on the meetings. They didn't have to be there. It was a good form of communicating when cell service may have been iffy. But communication is going to be key to everything. Identifying the potential life safety issues. Guys, these railings, okay, walking these properties, the railings, you got to be very careful in approaching. Damage doesn't just, you know, show itself saying, you know, don't touch me, I may hurt you. So you got to be very careful. Down power lines. There's a myriad of items to talk about with life safety, but you know, we're going to want to restore building functions. The main focus is the health of the building, right? And so restoring those building functions as power comes back, identifying damaged areas, and working with your team to come up with potential mitigation solutions. And the key here is preserving the evidence. You need to maintain, you need to prevent further damage from happening, okay, because that's a duty underneath the policy that you must complete. But you have to preserve your evidence now and show the insurance company the true story of what happened to your building, okay? I would review your post-loss checklist provided by your public adjuster that was in your pre-loss program if you have one. And this is a big emotional challenge right now, and you know, having a trusted advisor that can come in, that has the manpower, the experience to help guide, not tell you what you have to do, but provide options and provide guidance so that you and the boards are making educated claim decisions. Okay, that's going to be key. When we talk about the life safety stuff, this is a building in Marco Island that we handled. Look at the tile on this roof. Okay, it was all messed up, and we would be walking, and all of a sudden you'd see a tile just all of a sudden fall from 15, 20 stories up. Okay, that'll kill somebody, right? So you have to make sure that that you're aware of these issues. Again, this is another property up in Panama City on the bottom right with the metal pieces here. These were just thrown around the roof, just gouging the roof, hanging off the side of the building. And it took time to actually get people to get there to start taking this stuff down so that it wouldn't just fall on somebody below. So it's important now to make sure you're aware of these things. Okay, assembling your team, right? Hopefully you've done this before the storm hits, right? Like we talked about earlier, but assembling your team to come up with a plan for emergency services, temporary repairs, okay, that are going to stop further damage, but still allow you to collect for the full extent of your claim. Having your adjuster in place that's going to run the show with the insurance company, having security on site. Security, you're going to be inundated with people coming to try to do business, people coming to try to see the damage, just to joyride and go look around. So security is going to be a key factor. Having your different vendors, roofer, electrician, elevator, air conditioning, cooling towers, whatever it may be that you need on your building, identifying those people beforehand, having an agreement in place with them, and letting them know that, hey, I'm a priority when this storm hits. So make sure that they are going to be there for you.
Hey, Ray, can I just jump in 1 second? I can't agree with
Sure.
you more about the whole key to this thing, like you're saying, is being prepared. And all the things you're talking about doing are, and I think you said this earlier, are just having a really solid hurricane plan. And if you don't have that, you should definitely work with your management company. I know Campbell's got a standard kind of template that you use to help remind you all the things that you need to do. And then having the meetings every year as you're getting into hurricane season with your staff, making sure they understand what the plan is. And then even kind of going around and practicing things and making sure everyone knows where all the different shutoff valves are. If there's different things to be affixed to the building, like shutters and so on, just making sure that everyone understands where the hardware is. Having a really good plan is again, if you don't have it, trying to scramble around and figure this all out on the back end is just a nightmare.
No, absolutely. It's a great point. I can tell you it is such a great experience to work with a strong property manager who knows their building, who has the confidence behind them with their board, and has that plan and is ready to just lead for their association. So it's a great point. But just to continue on here with insurance adjusters, right? That's what's going to happen next. So what you have is you have three types of insurance adjusters. You have staff claim adjusters that you probably never will see. They're people that are for that specific insurance company making decisions. They only work for that one company. Then you have independent adjusters. Okay, independent adjusters, the term is kind of misleading. They are for the insurance company, okay, but they work for multiple insurance companies, and they are typically the field adjuster who comes out and is working the claim and reporting back to the company adjuster. And then, of course, you have the public insurance adjuster that does not work for insurance companies. They only work for you, the property owner. So those are the three types of adjusters. Does anybody here let the IRS do their taxes? No, right? That's why you need to have, right? You use your accountant. Same thing. Don't let the insurance company tell you what they think the claim is. You need to set the tone. You need to work with your property manager. Okay. You need to work with your own adjuster to put the claim together and tell the insurance company what they owe. So potential landmines within the claim, deductibles. All right. The commercial property insurance policies contain deductibles set by the insurance company based on risk assessments and on premiums paid by the insured. So these deductibles sometimes can be pretty hefty, and there's strategies to eat up the deductible. You don't pay your deductible. The deductible is held back. Okay, it's held back off of the claim, so you're not paying the deductible. All right. Your duties. This is a really key point. You have duties in the event of a loss. That section in your insurance policy is something that you should really be familiar with. You should know what your obligations are and make sure that those obligations are met. All right. It's important to quickly determine what your duties and conditions the insured must follow as set forth in the insurance policy to avoid a claim of prejudice by the insurance company. Examples of duties under the policy include timely notification of a loss to the insurance company, protecting the property from further damage, cooperation with the insurance company's investigation, okay, providing requested records and documents, submitting to recorded statements or examinations under oath, and submitting sworn statement and proof of losses. So, you want to work with the insurance company. With our group, okay, we come with the olive branch first. All right, you can always swing the baseball bat, but you want to try to bring that adjuster onto your side, and to sit there and try to obstruct, or you're not coming, or you're not coming to the property, and no, I'll tell you when. I mean, to be combative is really going to put you behind the eight ball. Okay, trying to cooperate and being fully transparent with them, does help, and you're required to do so. Limitations. Although most commercial policies provide the insured with significant coverage to their properties, there are plenty of limitations sprinkled throughout. It's important to quickly identify limitations that exist in the policy language that may prevent recovery in order to avoid adjusting expenditures and manage client expectations. Okay, again, we talked about earlier, wind-driven rain is a good example of this, where you're limited, okay, or could be excluded completely. I'll tell you, you need to have that coverage. That is key. So this here is this is a good example where they were trying to put a lot of water damage underneath wind-driven rain coverage, where we had water leaking to the ground. Obviously, you can see this metal framing was gouging the roof, as you can see from the shot above there. And they were saying that it wasn't wind-created openings. That's what triggers coverage, is a wind-created opening. So even though you sit there and go, look at this, look at how much damage there is. You can see the little black marks there was where they took tar and tried to just, temporary repair to stop water from coming in. But even when you feel it's so obvious, you'd be shocked at some of the claims that the insurance company will make. And it's a strategy to minimize their exposure. So that's why it's important to have professionals on your side to combat any of the claims that they may make against your property. This is an example here where the insurance company, even though if you see on this picture with the windows, you can see the boards on these windows. These windows had, or they were sliders, okay? They had blowouts, complete blowouts. And this is two 20-story buildings, close to a little over 400 units, I believe, that we handled. And they were given an under deductible letter. Their deductible was $2.7 million. You had this much damage right there, right in front of your face. And the insurance company, after spending 2 weeks on site with their building consultants and their adjusters, they said it was under deductible. So they hired our group, and we were able to collect north of somewhere 15 million, 20 million, somewhere in there. It was a very large claim. But even that, it's just crazy when it's so obvious, some of the claims that will be made. Here's another example of some water damage that came in through the claim. And you can see some of the differences. This is just for one unit, for the unit owner. Just trying to show you guys some examples. This is actually a fire, okay, where they denied it for different protective safeguards. They didn't have the protective safeguards. This is an example of knowing your policy, where they had to have certain fire suppression systems in this building, and they did not. And so they ended up denying the claim. So, I mean, don't panic. You got a plan for this, right? We all know now after this, everybody's going to go get their plan in place. You're not going to be caught without a plan. So don't panic. Don't engage with anyone that hasn't been properly contracted. Be aware, you've got a lot of companies that will come in and have a big showing that they're from out of town, they're from different states. You want to work with Florida-based people that understand the laws of this state. This state has different laws than other states. And if you have somebody who's not familiar with that because they're out of town, that could be a problem. So you want to make sure that you vet your people beforehand, maybe talk to references. Here's another one. Don't provide too much information. You send that maintenance guy walking with the team of adjusters, and he can't wait to talk about how, oh, that was there before the storm. Oh, we never do that. Yeah, that floods under the door all the time. I mean, these guys shoot themselves in the foot so many times, right? And so you just have to make sure that, understand that words matter. And the less is more in this case.
Hey, Ray, yes, Ray, on your prior point, I saw you had put up there a reference to assignment of benefits. I'm not sure everyone understands what that means, and that's a huge thing for people to be educated about. Can you just kind of explain how that works and the risks and pitfalls related to that?
Sure. What you want as a board is to be able to control your money. Okay, you want to be able to control your claim and control the payout. All right, and so this assignment of benefits is where contractors will come in and you'll sign away the rights of your claim to them. So now they basically become the insured. So now they are the ones that are trying to negotiate the claim, and they get to control the money. They get all the benefits. You're assigning the benefits of the insurance policy to them. And that can be dangerous, okay? Everyone needs a good contractor. I'm not saying contractors are bad. I'm just saying that you should understand these contracts that you're signing. You should make sure that you work with your property manager. You should make sure that you work with your HOA attorney and just understand how everything is going to affect you. In my opinion, you would want to make sure that you get paid correctly, that you control the money and have the freedom to spend it, and that the insurance company is not telling you how to rebuild your property, not involved in your construction, because the insurance policy dictates how you're paid, not how something may be fixed. So the policy is what dictates coverage and payment. So don't start tearing things out, ripping apart the building without proper documentation, okay, which that contractor should be able to do along with your public adjuster, okay, because you don't know what's covered. We may not have authorization from the insurance company, but you do have to mitigate, right? So it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but there is the right guidance. There is a way to do it, okay? This is an example of what can happen when you just allow someone to go hog wild in the building because you just want it. From my experience, the ownership, the boards, they want to see action. They want to see contractors. They want to see bodies on the ground cleaning up and action, action, action. Well, yes, of course we do, but it better be the right action, because if it's the wrong action, it can be devastating. So this is an example of this right here, what I'm talking about. The building on the right, okay, it hired our company. This is in Marco Island. These are the first two condo buildings built on Marco Island in the 60s. And they're sister buildings, exactly the same. And one association hired us from day one. We were able to come in. We got them several $1 million. This is 10 months after Irma hit. So they had already, we got them settled and their construction was already done. This is, you can see all new windows, cooling towers repaired up top there. And if I'm able to zoom in, there's a man sitting on the deck up there reading a book. Okay, so it's over. They've got it all behind them. The building is all been painted. Everyone's happy. The building to the left here, the property manager hired a restoration company that came in from somewhere out of state and did not have the professionals. She trusted those people, but what happened was they went in and tore out a ton of stuff without properly documenting the moisture levels, the right moisture mapping, things like that. And the insurance company was in a big tug of war. 10 months after the storm, they still have boards on the windows. If you look at those windows on the right side of the building there, those are boards on the windows still. So I went to her. I was driving down. I took this picture with my cell phone. I was driving to deliver a check to another building down the beach there, and I saw this. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this what a picture!" And so I took this picture, and then I went and talked to her, and she said, "Ray, we had to hire an attorney. It's a disaster. The restoration company that I brought in, they didn't have the right documentation. The insurance company were still fighting over the mitigation portion. We haven't even gotten to the true damages. We're still fighting over the mitigation." So again, it's important to really have the right team in place that you have vetted and you know that they're going to be able to perform for the community. So what are your options on who could or should handle your claim? So one option, by yourself, let the insurance company and their adjustment team do what they want to do. Your agent, the agent's going to fight for you. Okay. We love the agents. They insure us. They are going to do what they can, but the agent is restricted. They're not adjusting your claim. A lot of the agents try to help, and that's good intentions. Okay. But it's really when you go buy a car, you go back to the same guy because you trust him and he sells you the car. But when something breaks on the car and you go to the mechanic, okay, it's different. The agent, your sales guy's not going to be able to help you when you look at the bill from the mechanic. So it's kind of the same scenario. They're going to do what they can for you, but they are limited in what they can do inside of your claim. Right? Your property manager, again, they're going to be able to to coordinate all the different services, the different vendors, and get the bills, and they're going to do as much as they can. But in the state of Florida, the only people that can legally negotiate an insurance claim and discuss coverage and things of that nature is a public adjuster or an attorney. Okay. A unit owner who once heard the term insurance. I'm sure we all have those guys on our boards where they did it 30 years ago and they think they can handle it. Well, it's that the industry has changed dramatically from the days of just go do the work and turn in the bill and they just write you a check. Okay, that's not how it goes. I can tell you that. A restoration contractor, again, they're going to do everything they can for you. They're going to put the claim together, their documentation, but when the insurance company says no, that's it. They've said no, and the contractor really is not in a position to negotiate the claim. Right? Public adjuster is going to be able to do that for you. This is kind of what we do for our client. I just want to show this.
So Ray, the audio is not going through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the way you need to do it is when you share, there's a little button, you share your screen, you have to say, share audio with from my computer.
Okay, well, then you guys can hear me and I'll just kind of explain
Okay.
that. All right.
Sorry about that.
So I'm going to explain what this is. See, this is an insight into what it takes to handle these massive condo claims, right? You can see on the TV there, okay, this is the building where you guys watched where it was the storm and those guys were from across the street, okay? It was the one from across the street where the roof was coming off and the windows were blowing out. So what we did is our people put our estimate together and we presented our claim and we influenced the insurance company to come out with an offer back to us, okay? And so our team broke out the differences, right? We were at 17, 18 million. They came back at 4 million. Now we've got a huge gap. So we broke out all these differences. And so what we have here is we have some people are assigned going through the insurance policy, identifying areas that we can use to advocate for our people. You've got people going through photo reports to line up with their insurance estimate that says there's no damage in these units and we can show here's the photos. And we're basically closing the gap of disagreement, identifying where they're wrong, and then proving it back to them. So that is what we were doing there. I'm trying to get off of this slide for some. So if we're not doing the videos, then let's see here. You said share audio. I'm sorry that I'm.
When you share the screen, there's a little button that says on the bottom left of it that says use computer audio.
Gotcha.
So you might have to stop sharing and reshare.
And I'll stop sharing and then I will. Let's try this again.
Clearly, I've made the same mistake before, so that's not how to do it.
Well, Dan, tell me if you can hear this here.
I'm the Community Association Manager for Vanderbilt Country Clubs. I manage the two condo associations, Waterford Condominium Association and Wedgwood Condominium Association. So I'm sure everybody's heard of Irma. She kind of came through Florida and obviously she spent some time here on our property. And as part of that process, she tore up some roofs and tore up a lot of other parts of the property and really had quite a bit of damage on all of our roofs in both of our condominium associations. Our roofing company that had worked here for many years, they tend to blew it off and kind of acted like we didn't really need to have much done. They could patch up the work. But as we got into the project a little bit farther, we realized that we really needed some professional help because the damage was much more intense than what we thought. So So at that point, we knew we needed really some professional help, and the boards at that time decided that we probably should go engage the services of a public adjusting firm. We did go out and we vetted several companies, brought them in, interviewed them, and we landed on Altieri Transco as the company that we wanted to engage in this process. The presentation they gave us in terms of how they were going to function, how they were going to go after this claim, the way they were going to represent our interests, I'm not sure there's any way we would have ever imagined getting the kind of results that we got. The communication process, the entire dealing with Altieri and their group was second to none. I mean, trying to have done this on our own would have really ended up with something far less substantial than what we ended up with. And so at the end of the day, there's no way we would have ended up in the position we're in today had we not had their expertise involved.
So now that we got the sounds, I just want to give you an experience from a property manager. So this is the process video. Let's try that again.
Hey guys, the policyholders adjuster here at Altieri Transco American Claims headquarters, breaking down a large commercial condo claim that we're working from Hurricane Michael. All of this personnel, all of this documentation, guys, goes into one single claim. And what we have here is we have our original estimate that we provided to the insurance company to influence and impact their idea of what that claim looks like. And what that did was produce their first round of estimates and their first payment. Because Kevin, does the insurance company pay off of anybody's estimate but their own? No. So what we did was influence and impact that. And then we broke down the differences, and that created another round of estimates from the insurance company, increasing their payment. And this is how the process progresses. And we've got Ray Penge down here, identifying the visible damages that we have through our photographs and identifying any discrepancies in their latest reports. Frank is breaking down all of their expert reports, all their consultant reports, engineering reports, and there's multiple versions of it once we've identified these discrepancies. And Andy is going through a massive policy. So I don't know who's going through all of this for you, but he is for us and our client. And our clients are sleeping well at night, knowing that we're going to reach a successful claim settlement. Who's working for you?
So, the point of all that is having a team that can break down these differences, that tells the insurance company what they need to pay. You've got to tell them. You can't be sitting back and letting them just come up with what they want to give, because they're going to start low. Okay. And they have they have their engineers, they have their building consultants, they have their adjusters, and you need to tell you need to tell the story of what happened to your building. Right. And I think one of the main important things that between a board and a contractor is money flow. Right. We don't want to have to assess the ownership. Okay. So immediately what we do is we do what's called a ROM, a rough order magnitude. It's a short, quick estimate that's put together on the building components to show what we feel is a roundabout number where the reserve should be set. The insurance adjusters, first thing they have to do is do what's called setting a reserve. And that is where they report back up the line to their superiors and say, I can settle this claim put 5 million on this one. Okay. Well, if it's supposed to be 10 and they set the expectations at 5, now you're trying to drag them up a mountain. So getting out front of that and influencing the reserve, right? And that also establishes a large advance payment. We ask immediately for an advance payment, a substantial advance payment based on the ROM that we create to get money flowing into your association so that the contractors don't have to stop, so they can continue working through these buildings and keep the money flow. And then of course you've got our estimate goes in, they come out with an offer, we've got a difference, but when they offer money, let's get it out. It does you no good to sit there and say, I'm not taking a penny until I get it all. Why would we do that? Let's get the money into your association so we're not having to assess, and that the workflow continues on. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does. So, yeah, let's see here. Trying to move this little bar. Either way. So, pre-plan, this is what we've learned. Pre-plan, assemble your claim recovery program before the event. Be prepared. Resumption of operations, occupancy, being in the know, managing your insurance proceeds, vendor contractors performing quality work, complying with code, and bringing your building up to date. So now do you know what the property insurance cycle is? Insuring it properly, having your team in place, and that team performing for your community and working it towards its completion. So I'd like to open up for any questions. Dan, if you want to start a narrative or anything like that.
No, I think that was great. I appreciate you guys going through that today. We spend so much time on hurricane planning and preparation that sometimes, and it's, again, like we said earlier, it's been so long since we've had one full speed down here in South Florida. It's great to have some of these reminders.
There's some questions in the Q&A that never really got answered in the chat, so it'd be good to address some of those as well.
Okay, I'm ready to do that. If you want to give me the questions, Gil, so go ahead.
Okay, so the first one that I see is, can you address the policies that contain preferred providers?
So preferred providers, meaning that they have their own restoration company that the insurance company wants you to use. I would want to work with my own people. Okay, it's kind of like letting the fox guard the hen house when you bring in when you're forced to use the insurance company's people. And I think that's something that you can talk about with your agent, that look, I don't want to be forced into working with a contractor that I really don't know, but some of these policies mandate that. And so I think that's more of a question for your agent to discuss with in the future.
Okay. The next question is, are county building permits required for spalling, repairs, waterproofing, and painting a condo building?
I don't know. I'm not a contractor. I mean, that's I'll be honest, I don't know that answer. I mean, when you're talking about permitting, that's all on the rebuild side. And your general contractor would know about that. So I'm sorry.
Next one is, who makes the decision between an owner or association responsibility for repair replacement? So I guess when it says, option for repair.
Okay, well, say that again, who makes the decision for what, a unit owner versus a condo board?
Yeah, it says between an owner or association, like whose responsibility is it for repair replacement?
Okay, well, typically, your condo docs would decide that, but typically the unit owner owns from the paint into the unit, all the finishes, okay? And the condo association would be for the drywall outside the walls. So typically when you have an insurance claim, windows, things like that all go towards the association, okay? But if you want to change your sliders or your windows when there's not a claim, typically that's the unit owner's decision, and they obviously have to get it passed through the board. But your condo docs would be pretty clear on who's responsible for what.
Okay. Mary Peralta asked, I am seeking qualified GCs. Any recommendations? I would assume that just kind of depends on the market, and I guess just make sure they're licensed and bonded and insured, and do some research, make sure they have some good repairs, but we can always make recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a bunch. I mean, there's a lot out there. You've got you have different franchises, right? So you gotta get to know, right? One franchise of a large restoration group, I know worked great with us on one, but then that same name came in, but it was a different franchise. It was a different group of people, and they didn't know what they were doing. So it's important to vet these people beforehand, like I said. And if we could maybe give the person who asked that question, we'd find out where they are. And Gil, I don't know if you have an email for her or something like that. Maybe we can contact her after and just get a better understanding of what she's looking for, and then we could point her in the right direction from our experience.
Yeah, sure. We'll follow up with her. The next one is, it appears the public adjuster is needed prior to any disaster. Do you hire an adjuster on a retainer, or does the adjuster walk the property for areas of concern?
I would say, yeah, you basically want a pre-loss agreement. We do that with our clients where we have a pre-loss agreement that they're going to be a priority to us, and we're going to be a priority to them. So and once that happens, once we have this pre-loss agreement in place, we would come look at the property. We would do an overall view of the property and its condition, and then we would do a policy review, like we talked about, to identify any issues that could be in that policy. We want to strengthen the policy always for them. And then if it's a business decision for the board if they want to pay for that coverage, but at least it's been identified to you, and the board can then make an educated decision with and have a conversation with their agent from a claims perspective with suggestions that we've provided in the policy review.
Next question. Will you please also address, hold on. Will you please also address the insurance carrier request / demand for a release in exchange for payment? Policyholders aren't told this isn't required.
Yeah, well, when they have a release, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. Look, it depends on the number. Okay, so for instance, here's an example. We have a bunch of high rises up in Perdido Key and Orange Beach in Alabama right now, and we're getting these offers with releases. Okay, well, that release it doesn't come with an estimate. Okay, so we get them. We're claiming windows and doors. We're claiming certain building components, and you get a top dollar. You get a number that comes in at $7-8 million. Let's say, right? You're looking at you're working with your contractor. Your contractor says, "Yeah, I can do the job for X." So you know your bottom line. I need to get to this line to be able to do the work the way I want to, and that release then gets applied to, hey, here's the money. But we don't want to show that we actually paid for windows, and we don't want to be on record that our insurance company paid for these things. So we want to release. Well, the good thing is that you got the release, you got the money that you need, and they can't point if you get hit again a couple years later, they can't say that that's old damage, okay? Because oh well, look, we paid for it because there's no estimate. So you would really want to consult with your public adjuster, with your attorney, on what that means for future damage. But the release situation is usually a good thing because they're coming to the table with the right amount of money. And obviously, if it's not to your satisfaction of dollar value, then you wouldn't settle the claim. You'd continue going forward.
What are the implications of delay in making all damage claims?
What are the implications of delay in making all damage claims?
Ray, I think that was pertaining to you talking about keeping the money flowing. Let's accept this number now, close the differences, we'll get another number later, versus just waiting for the entire settlement at the end.
Well, I think what it does is it shortens the gap of disagreements. If there's a $10 million delta, okay, and we end up getting them to say, hey, all right, we agree to the roof now, whereas we didn't agree, so here's another $1 million. Well, now we're at 9, and then okay, well, we ended up agreeing to painting the building and doing the railings, and so okay, now we're at 4. So there's when it comes down to settlement time, it looks a lot better for an insurer to say, okay, we're going to settle when there's a $4 million gap than the whole big $10 million gap. So it makes it continues to pump money into the building to continue work going and putting the building back, and it just shortens the gap so that the gap isn't so large at the end when it comes down to settlement. It's a shorter gap, I guess. But again, the board's in control. So if the board says I'm not accepting the money and we're just going to wait till the end, then that's the board's decision. We'll continue working as the board sees fit. This is just a strategy that we've seen work in getting large settlements and getting these claims settled and out the door.
And I think also one of the implications by not doing it that way would be that the contractor just might not go to work tomorrow. If the money's not there, if in this example, if you're waiting for the $10 million, it's going to be hard to get a contractor to go out there and start the work.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, because the contractors, they put money out there on the street and they got to keep their people working. And so they got all this money out there, and without it coming in to backfill, their hands are tied. They got to stop working.
Next question is, what is the cost of a public adjuster?
The cost is a percentage. It's nothing up front. It's at the end, and it's not out of the board's pocket. It's out of the claim dollars. So it's what we produce. It depends on the size of the loss, but it's a percentage, and ranging from I don't know, 10% to 20%. Sometimes you go, and the larger the claim goes, maybe the shorter the percentage fee. But you see a value in the public adjuster, and the public adjuster wants to do work on your property, then they should come to a fair agreement for both sides. But it's a small percentage of what is produced out of the claim.
And what about in, like in a hurricane situation, what are the limits mandated by the state?
The limits would be for residential, you can only charge up to 10% for residential only. That would mean someone's unit or someone's home. But you can charge, there's no limit on commercial work. I've seen some public adjusters have tried to charge 30%, which to me is outrageous. 20%. A good solid fee that is a standard industry fee is 10%. And that should be good enough for the public adjuster on these large claims like this.
Yep. Under what circumstances might a board decide to take responsibility beyond what is included in the docs?
On what circumstance would the board? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to understand the conversation, like what they would pay for as a unit owner. I don't, I mean, that would just be if the board was feeling generous and wanted to just pay for someone's unit. I mean, the insurance policy will only pay for what the board, what it insures. Okay. The policy will only pay for what the policy insures. So if the board wanted to go outside of that, I'm sure that they could. But I don't see boards usually doing that, and they'd have to have the money to do so.
There's a situation, Ray, where I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, normally that if they do that, that can lead to a lot of problems down the road, because, well, wait a minute, why did you do it in this one instance? Now do we have to do it for other people? So it's that's something that's definitely a legal and insurance very specific that you'd have to sort through, because like what Ray said, you really just have to follow the association and the insurance, what they come up with.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that can open up a big can of worms, because everybody's going to want it. That opens the door and the floodgates, I would say.
Let's see. What can be done when a claim on massive damages done in a building, such as a hurricane in the Keys, gets paid, but it's so long to get money that the damages are now more than the money is to repair? So basically, there was a delay in getting the money. Some more damages occurred while that money was coming in, and like the cost of repair went up from that estimate that was paid.
Which is exactly just what happened, right? With all the lumber costs increasing, I imagine this happened to a lot of people over the last few months. If they
it did. And so the software that we use, that the industry uses, is called Xactimate, and that is it's by zip code, it's by month. Basically, they update the price list. So, I mean, if that's happened, then you have to go back and revise the estimates. I mean, that's what we've had to do on our claims, is just go back and say, hey, look, that we're having to charge X because of the current situation. So, I mean, you should probably have good documentation of the price increase, good documentation of the damage, but it is your duty to mitigate. So if for some reason you just left the big hole in the roof and waited until you got your money, that may be on you, that you didn't fulfill your duties to prevent further damage. So yeah, I mean, I would have a good documentation package. I would be able to show that the price increased, and I'd go back and ask for payment. Unless you signed a release, then if you signed a release, then that's over.
Also talk about the statute of limitations on Windstorm too, just in case it's an older Irma claim that they may have been referencing.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the state of Florida, you have 3 years to make your claim, and that was for Irma. So you couldn't make a claim now and say, you know what, I found all this damage and it had to be from Irma, you wouldn't be able to make that claim. So you have to make sure you when these storms hit, you've got to really do a good review of your building, even though it's not catastrophic and you don't have windows blown out everywhere. You still need to have your vendors come out and look at the different building components to make sure there's not damage. I mean, a good example would be windows. We've got a property right now in Panama City. It's 5 high-rises, and they've been paid only $15 million. We're looking at almost 3 years now, right? So Michael hit in 18, and they've called us to come in at the back end here to help them because their windows now are fogging. They weren't fogging before. It took a long time. Well, see, our guys are trained in these windows, and we're able to show the beginning stages of the insulated glass failure and things of that nature. And so that's why you have to, even though they didn't feel they had much damage, you have to have a good inspection, because in the condos, especially on the beach, right, the biggest thing is the windows. You want to have that beautiful view that you have for your unit. So you got to make sure that those windows are inspected by the right people that have the knowledge to identify the damage. Even though it may not be glaring right now, it could happen later on.
Next question is, if we use your company, do we also need a private adjuster?
No, well, that's what we are. So if you wanted to use our group, we would be your private adjuster, your public adjuster, same term. And you would contact us and we'd come out and sit down and have a good conversation about how we could work together.
Right. What is the cost of pre-loss engagement of a public adjuster?
It would vary by company. And I could say that we have our own program that I'd be happy to discuss with you if you wanted to reach out.
Okay. The next question is there a possibility to use the insurance money to bring the building up to code as of today, even if the insurance is not covering it and the association would pay the difference of the cost?
So you're saying like you got paid from the insurance company on something.
Yep.
And then you wanted to then add in money of your own reserves to bring certain elements of the building up to code. Yeah. That's absolutely possible. That would just be, it'd be similar to if the building was doing a remodeling of certain areas and the association was just paying for it. So you could definitely tandem the money with current reserves to do whatever you like. And that's what I talk about, making sure that you control the money, that the money goes to the board and that the board has the ability to spend that money as they see fit.
And also, just as it pertains to evaluating policies, one of the things that's typically included in there is, right, code upgrade coverage. So that's one thing you want to make sure that you have, especially if you have an older building, because that would, minimize that delta so the association doesn't have to make up that cost.
Correct.
Gil, I think that's a really important point. You want to just can you come up and give a quick example of something like that? Like somebody's fire panel gets destroyed or something, just something that what would be covered?
An example of code coverage and how it applies. Okay. Yeah. Well, typically, so what you have is a very easy example to talk about is, let's say you have a window that you have the original window. Okay. And you have a claim where the window is damaged and now is going to be replaced. And that window costs $100. Okay. You get your $100 out of your building limit, your coverage A. Okay. Your building limit, that $100 is paid for that window. Well, now you're going back, you have to bring it up to code now. And so the new window of today's standard and today's code costs $150. Okay. So you got your 100 from the building limit. Now you're talking about there's a $50 gap. Well, that's where we isolate those increased costs, and that comes out of the code coverage. So the 100 would come out of the building limit, the extra $50 would come out of the code limit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is it a good idea to rely on one's insurance agent to deal with the insurance company?
No, I do not think that that's the right way to go about it. The agent still works for the insurance company. They're very important. Some people have great relationships with their agent, and I've seen agents that have been awesome in trying to get in there and fight for their clients. But again, they're limited. They're handcuffed. They're not out there writing the estimate. They're not sitting there documenting the claim. And the insurance companies really don't have to, I guess, really bend to what they're wanting. So otherwise, that we wouldn't be in business. So the agent can be very helpful in coverage analysis. Obviously, the agent, his job is to their job is to make sure you're insured properly. When a claim happens, we love when an agent teams up with us, and we can use them to help with coverage analysis. But that's kind of that's in our lane, is to have your own adjuster adjust your claim.
How do you know if the settlement offer from the insurance company is fair?
So, well, you would have when you present your claim, okay, now you know what you're asking for, right? So if you haven't done that and the insurance company has provided an offer, I would find it hard that a board would be able to know unless basically you would probably reach out to someone like us to review that estimate. We currently are doing when we're at our hurricane areas, we provide a no cost to the board review of the insurance claim to and the building. So we'll go in, we'll do some sample units, we'll look at the building in general, we'll look at what the insurance company has offered, and we'll say, you know what, no, they're grossly underpaid this. Or they'll say, you know what, this is pretty spot on, there's nothing really here we could impact. So we would just provide that assurance back to the board that, you know, you've gotten a fair offer, and we wouldn't be able to help you on this.
What might we expect to pay for preferred vendor / HOA agreement? And I assume it is an annual fee.
Wouldn't that be the size of the building, Ray?
Yeah, it's always based on the size of the building. That's why it's kind of you got to have a conversation. It's a good question, and one that I'd like to answer for them individually. But your preferred vendors, if you're talking about contractors, I'm not sure how they do it. But every company is different in what they are there to offer. So if you're interested in having a pre-loss agreement with us, we'd love to sit and explain that to you.
Let's see. During a hurricane, a tree fell from the forest and broke the building, and the roof broke a unit's window. Would that repair be covered by the condo insurance? Building are only 5 feet away from the forest.
Yeah, that would be covered. Anything that's due to the event would be covered by the condo insurance. They would be required to replace the roof, paint the building if it was damaged, and the window that was broken would be paid underneath the condo insurance because it is under an insured event.
Do we deal with Fema claims?
Yes, flood claims, things like that. Correct. Yes, we would be able to consult on that.
Do you have a similar service like pre-loss agreement and a coverage analysis for individual homeowners, not the association?
We typically, when we get brought on by an association, we then open ourselves up to the ownership to be a resource to them. With homeowners, specific homeowners, we haven't really done that in the past. I mean, but if you have a specific question, we wouldn't want to leave you hanging. So, you know, like I said, David, Gil, and Pete are in South Florida in your area. They could probably come meet you. So if you wanted to reach out, please do. And we're always here to help.
Yep. Next question is, insurance companies send their own adjuster and the association has their own adjuster, and the gap is big between the two. How do you know which one is correct?
Well, I'd be in the know on the insurance claim. I would want to see the estimate. If you're talking about if a board member's already hired a public adjuster and they have a number and the insurance company has a number, that's the question?
Yeah.
How do I know who's right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so be involved. All right. Understand if your public adjuster is claiming all the windows are wrecked and nobody has any leaks from them, I don't know. So, you know what I mean? So if they're claiming the roof needs to be replaced, but there's no wind created opening, well, that's not right. Right. So, you know, insurance companies keep files on public adjusters, lawyers, contractors, okay? And they know the ones that have the professionalism, the credibility, the superior documentation packages, and they know which ones get things paid. They know which public adjusters are basically, they write an estimate, kick and scream, and then throw it to an attorney. That's not public adjusting, okay? So again, that's where knowing who you're working with. But back to your question, is be involved and understand what you're claiming. Okay, that would be the answer, is to know and ask that public adjuster, why are you claiming it? You know, obviously you want to get paid for it, but you don't want them asking for something that you're not entitled to, because that's not going to help your case for the stuff that you are entitled to.
And Ray, can you touch on writing our numbers based on the policy versus based on insurance guidelines?
That a lot of times brings in some gaps too.
Yeah, I mean, again, the policy dictates how you're paid. So with our company, we have in-house building consultants that all they do is write damage estimates. They're very knowledgeable about structural issues and all different types of buildings. And so with our adjuster's knowledge of the insurance policy, knowing how the policy is supposed to respond in your favor, we infuse that with our building consultant's knowledge of construction. Okay, and so our adjuster is going to ask questions of, well, how do you repair it? How do you replace it? And what brings you back to a pre-loss condition, not just patched or a less than, right? We don't want to be less than. So it's important to have that fusion of insurance policy knowledge alongside the knowledge of construction.
Next question is, I've heard that insurance companies do not like public adjusters and will delay any claim over another without an adjuster. Is that true?
No. Okay. What is true is when they have a public adjuster that is not credible. That's a problem. Okay. But there's good and bad in every industry. Okay. You know, you have professional representation must be is a big value to everybody. Okay. And so you would never go to court without a lawyer. And yes, there are some bad lawyers. Okay. So just know, do your due diligence on public adjusters. I can tell you that we work well with a lot of the insurance companies at this level of the claim. It's a small world when we're working with the same adjusters pretty much on every storm, because they're at the top of their insurance companies. So I know we've been told they're almost happy that we're on it, because now they're dealing with a professional instead of, you know, sometimes you get boards that they're not educated in the insurance process, which naturally, okay, and they are kicking and screaming when they're upset, and the adjuster from the insurance company has to deal with that. Well, now they get to deal with the same, you know, adjusting team that they've worked with for many years. They've had successful outcomes, and there's a professional respect, and they can't just delay because you have a public adjuster. There would be reasons why, and there are strategies and ways to make them move. That's for sure.
It also
Takes less time to underpay a claim.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said it takes less time to underpay a claim. So if you're wanting the claim to be paid properly, different reviews need to be done.
No, that's a good point. Look, you can settle right now. I mean, I've had a client say, man, this is, you know, why it's taking too long. It's taking too long. Well, they've only gotten to this point. You can settle right now and it can go away. Well, no, we need the money. Right. Okay. So here's why. That's why it's important to be in the know with your claim, because you know what your adjuster is doing for you. You see them in the trenches. You see the damaged package being presented, and you know you're being you're educated on what's going on. So again, you can settle at any time, but you need to be paid correctly, and just understand that with your group.
Is it necessary to hire an outside adjuster, or just depends on the insurance adjuster? What is the benefit to hiring a PA?
The benefit of hiring a public adjuster is having an adjuster that puts the claim together from your perspective, not from the insurance company's perspective, and and is telling the insurance company what they need to pay. It's proving it, right? You don't let the IRS do your taxes. I used that earlier. You don't go to court without a lawyer. Okay, so why would you let the insurance company, who now has the checkbook and has to now make payment, allow them to decide what they want to pay you? All right, so it's a conflict of interest to have the insurance company's adjuster represent both you and the insurance company.
Next question is kind of along those lines. Says, I believe restoration companies work with work with the carrier adjuster. Are they?
Say that again. It broke up.
It says, I believe the restoration company works with the insurance adjusters. Are they? So I guess kind of how does, if you bring in, a company to do mitigation and they say they're working with insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're going to work, your restoration contractor is going to work with the insurance company to try to get things paid. But there are times when the insurance company has disagreements, which is every single claim, with what the work is, okay, and what is actually damaged, what needs to be replaced. Can we patch the roof, right? The big trend in Hurricane Irma was harvesting tiles. And the roofer would sit there and say, no, we can't harvest tiles, meaning they would go to one building and take all the good tiles off. They would replace that one building. And then they would take all those tiles and try to go patch them in to where there was broken ones. Well, that isn't putting you to a pre-loss condition. The roofing groups were trying to fight that, and they weren't able to, and they would lose. And so you'd see these patched roofs. Well, that didn't happen to any of our clients. All of our clients got their roofs paid for.
Let's see. Is there a time limit when a settlement has to be made between the two parties?
No, not in a commercial standpoint. Now, there are certain actions that you can put in place that do have time frames involved, like a civil remedy notice, which is a 60-day time frame that they must remedy any of the infractions within 60 days. So that's a claim strategy. It's a legal document that gets submitted. If they request, the insurance company requests a sworn statement and proof of loss, there's a time frame on that. Typically you have to, in writing from the date of loss, you have to notify the insurance carrier that you do intend to make a replacement cost claim within 180 days of the date of loss. So there's time frames in there, but to have the claim settled and paid, not on a commercial.
Great. How can you find a PA that is good? What do you look for?
I would say looking for, they've been in business a long time. And what did they do before that? Most of our adjusters worked for insurance companies for 10, 15 years, okay, and came on to this side. And we're able to use that knowledge now to help advocate for the client. But you would want to know how many times does their claim go to an attorney, right? What percentage of claims has to go to an attorney to get it settled? If you're sitting there with somebody that the majority of their claims are with attorneys, they're not being successful for their client. And I would just, I'd want to talk with some references to see what their experiences were, maybe see some of the reports, what some of their examples of estimates or roof reports or photo reports look like, the professionalism of the documentation, the file to the insurance company. You could always ask to see an example of that. And I think that would be a good key to helping you find who the adjuster is you want to work with.
Who can you complain to if insurance is taking over a year to close the claim and the adjuster isn't able to make them get there?
You have the Department of Insurance. You can file a complaint with the consumer advocate and of the state of Florida. There's a complaint that you can file.
Okay. That was everything in the Q&A. So I don't see anything we didn't answer. And
right, and maybe Dan can touch on this too, or Ashley. I know how intense our job gets after a large storm, especially around the beaches and condos. I can only imagine what it's like to run a building of that magnitude during those storms. So, trying to do both at the same time, dealing with unit owners plus an insurance claim, getting everything documented, I can only imagine is just completely overwhelming.
No, that's a great point. And that's why it's so important to have professionals, that are associated with the building that can come in and help sort through everything, because there's so much, you mentioned early on, the communication is the key in this thing. And you got to remember too, that most of the people during hurricane season aren't here. they're somewhere else. So you're going to be getting flooded with calls and questions about what happened to my unit. Is the power on? Was the damage, you know, or windows out? Is there flooding in my unit? So you're going to get a lot of that you're going to have to deal with. And that's a big part of the planning. And again, why it's so important to have all your ducks in a row and you're ready for it when it happens. Because like I said earlier, we've had some kind of interesting trial runs over the last few years down here in South Florida. We've gotten some heavy rains and some, you know, tropical storms and, you know, some water intrusion, but we have not had the real thing. And it's going to be, when it hits, it's going to be, everyone's going to have to be really, really ready for it. And
yeah, it's not if, it's when. And you know, to your point, Dan, is all of your property managers, their homes are hit too.
Exactly.
You know, it's not just, okay, I'm here for my board, which they will be, but they have their own families and their own friends that have been affected that they're going to have to tend to as well. With our company, you know, we're spread out across the state, and in other states we have offices as well and strategic partners. So we're able to be able to get to a disaster zone quickly. From even if our personal homes are affected, we're going to have others that in our company that are not affected and that can get to the area and start helping with our clients.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the key parts of our when people are doing a hurricane plan is just to manage people's expectations that when this is forthcoming, we want everything done well before it potentially hits, because our staff need to go home and take care of their own homes. And that's fortunately the last couple of years we've had some of these happening where it was a concern and we were getting all the prep done. Most of our properties, the managers were able to take actually the day before off to go take care of their own home because they got it all done in time. So some of those things you just don't even think about until it happens. So it's just the more you can make people understand, wait a minute, why is our manager not here? Well, because they were here for 15 hours the last 3 days. They've got everything done. Now they're making sure their own home is ready.
Right, exactly. You know, and we help with the communication to the boards and to the ownership, right? When it is chaos like that and we're hired and we're on site, we're going to be writing communication for, you know, narratives for the board to present to the ownership. We're going to be that partner that can help them with the communication flow, because we've seen how really strong boards have done it in the past, and strong property managers have done it. And so we can provide maybe some suggestions that would add to the positive flow.
Also, sitting in board meetings after the storm, after we're retained and we're working to be able to field some of these questions as well, right? Knowing the claims process and not putting it just on the property manager.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're asked to sit in there for a big meeting, for a big board meeting that the ownership is involved in, we'll sit there right there shoulder to shoulder and answer questions and explain to them that, you know, this manager here is doing everything that they can for you. The insurance company here's why things are happening, right? Whatever the scenario would be, and be able to explain it from an adjusting perspective.
We did have one question pop in last minute. May punitive damages be sought by both the association / attorney for delayed settlement or bad faith of the insurance company?
Yeah, the lawyers would. That's a legal thing there, and that's why it's really important to document the claim from day one the right way. It's not just about damage. It's about the insurance company's actions as well. When they're missing deadlines, okay, when they're not responsive, when they've sent out personnel that are ill-equipped or underexperienced, you know, when they've made statements and then do not fulfill those promises, right? That has to be documented in writing back to them. You know, today, thank you, we met on site. You said that you'd have this back to me in 2 weeks. Well, it has been 3 weeks, and whatever it may be. We're documenting the whole flow to then be able to, if an attorney can look at things and bad faith may be involved, then the attorney would then, we would file certain documents like the civil remedy notice. You set it up the right way. You set it up the right way so that, yes, the attorney could then go and collect not only for your damages, but for other damages like such as bad faith, punitive damages on top of that, for it to go away. That's a good question.
Well, Ray, Gil, Dave, Pete, thanks so much for this course today. I think it's been really helpful. It's great to have people that are experiencing this on a year-by-year basis. I'm glad we're not experiencing it on a year-by-year basis, but it's good to know that there are people out there that are all across Florida and that you can bring some really interesting perspective to this, because a lot of it changes. And like we said earlier, we just haven't really gotten hit super hard but down here in the last decade.
Sure.
So it's great to hear your experiences and get your advice. So with that, Ashley, do you want to just close up for everybody?
Yep, sure. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you guys for doing the presentation. I did just send the survey out, so if you guys can go ahead and take that, it should have popped up. It's just 3 quick questions so we can get your feedback. And I will be sending everything via email afterwards. So the presentation, the recording, everything afterwards. We really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, everybody. And if you don't have that hurricane plan done, talk to your management company. Make sure you get one done so that you're not wondering what you should be doing and scrambling if something goes wrong. So thanks again, everybody.